You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra. The MiG-21 Bison of number 4 Squadron of the Indian Air Force has flown for the last time today. It flew along an Su-30 MKI in Uttarlai village in Barmer district in Rajasthan. The MiG-21 Squadron has served the country for 6 long decades since 1964. It has served out pilots well and has seen India's triumphs in 1965, 1971 and of course 1999 in the wars against Pakistan. This now marks an end of an era and we are bidding adieu to this aircraft in our Air Force fleet. The prominent reason the MiG-21 fleet has been grounded and is being phased out is due to the fact that the crash rate has been a cause of concern in recent times, as many of them have met with accidents. At least 400 MiG-21s, dubbed as flying coffins, have crashed in the last 60 years. Now, India eyes the induction of more LCA Tejas, the Rafale, the Sukhoi aircrafts in the future. We further aim at equipping our forces with modern capabilities that make India future ready. We'll talk about this with some people who understand this space like no other. Dr. V.N. Jha, defense expert, with us on the program. Wing Commander Praful Bakshi, former Chief Spokesperson, Indian Air Force and Ministry of Defence, also joins us on the show. Major General Shashi Asthana, former Additional DG, Infantry, Global and Defence expert, also joins us on the program. Last but not the least, Major General G.G. Dwivedi, Global Strategic Defence expert, also joining us on the program to talk about this. General Dwivedi, I'll start with you, sir. Sir, if you can hear me.
Right. Yes, I can hear you very well.
So I'm much younger to you when it comes to experience and when it comes to the understanding of how these things work, but there is a saying in Hindi which goes something like this: Der aaye, durust aaye. Is this one of those times?
Well, Vineet, when you talk of MiG-21, I have very nostalgic memories, We are in Sainik school and I remember I was in grade 8, and when this aircraft was inducted, our principal gave a very elaborate introduction and dubbed it as the best aircraft that time in the world. And this aircraft had proved worth its, I think, earlier cousins in Korean War in 1950-53. So when you talk of this machine, this aircraft, my memories, of course, go back to almost 6 decades. But having said that, the wars are fought with weapons, and of course, one with the spirit of the men. So it's the man-machine combination that wins you the wars. And MiG-21, I think, played a very important Herculean role, both in 65, 71, and later on in 1999. But the point is the armed forces have to modernize, and therefore modernization is an ongoing process. This aircraft, well, there was a very harsh review, and even it was called a flying coffin, but I think that was an extreme kind of a synonym with this aircraft. But all said, it was upgraded as Bison 3.5 generation, it was 3.5 generation. And I think it did a tremendous service to our nation and also for the Air Force. And it had to go because it's almost 6 decades now. And the new machines are coming. And as I said, that we need to modernize constantly. And this is the time that we have to bid farewell. And I'm sure I have met a number of my postmates who have flown the aircraft and they would swear by it, and they say that yes, it was one of the very finest machines in its own time. But then each machine has a time, each machine has an era. I think this era had come to the end, and we are there now for more modern aircraft like Su-30 MKI, Rafale, and also the LCA Tejas. Well, they will also take the place and prove the worth. But all I can say is that this aircraft had made history. It definitely belongs to an era. It will be remembered for a long time to come, and it did a great service to our nation, to the Air Force, and for the security. And a number of us remember it, though I am not from the Air Force, but I have heard a lot of good stories from my postmate of NDA, and I think it's time to bid farewell to this aircraft, and I'm sure it will be remembered for a long time to come. Vineet.
Commander Bakshi, in fact, the IF inducted the supersonic fighter aircraft MiG-21 in 1963. And just to give you a context and, the time at which it came was, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister of our country. It has fought wars for 40 years. It was also the aircraft that Abhinandan Varthaman used to shoot down an F-16, in that altercation with Pakistan. Would you term it correct, sir, that the memories that we have with the MiG-21 Bison have been bittersweet, to say the least?
Thanks, Vineet, for having me on the show. I have some experience on MiG-21, I know it. But the question about the MiG-21 is, it started flying in 1955, more than 11,000 have been built, close to 60 countries have used it, and many are still using it. Other countries did not call it flying coffin. China built it. It made into F-7, reversed engineer, did not call it flying coffin. Only in India, this synonym had come for some reasons, because when you use the phrase "der aay durust hai," if I say durusti mein agar der kari, to kuch problem khadi hoti hain. And that is what the whole thing was. F-7, Pakistan flew, F-9 still flying, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, number of countries are still flying MiG-21. So let us say it. Yes, MiG-21 was, when it came, and first war it saw was Vietnam War, it outclassed Phantom. Phantom that time was my Mark II fighter, so MiG-21 come there. And mind you, at that time they were quite surprised by the performance of the MiG-21, because it was performing very well. But subsequently, they did not build it up further, did not do it. And other twin-engine aircraft came, like F-15 and other aircraft, and they outmaneuvered it due to power-to-weight ratio. But that's a different issue. But the question is, it proved remarkably well for itself. It all depended on which pilot was flying. If it was flown by some pilots who could not handle it well, so they brought a bad name to it. It was handled by Indians, and you know very well, you just mentioned Abhinandan. But that's right. Aircraft can be shot down. Any aircraft which comes in front of me, even if I'm on a Spitfire, and some aircraft comes in front of me, and there it is, within my firing range, it'll be get shot down, no doubt. But here the question is, when China could do reverse engineering and bring it up, Bison, we started with Type 77, Type 96, then came the Bison. Russians twisted our arms when we tried to build the aircraft ourselves. We were capable of doing R&D on it, and HAL was very keen. And it is at that time that the political decision was there. They did not let us go forward with that. That is the problem which came, and we had to live with the old, and then we were not making our spare parts, indigenization programs. You know very well, it is just caught up last 6 to 7 years in, Bharat Abhiyan and Swavlambi Bharat, all those things are there. But MiG-29 had then traveled a long distance. It had become old, and it's not like F-7, which was rebuilt, redesigned, and China had done more work on it. FC-1, and they made it, and they made advanced models out of the aircraft. That is where, when we held back our R&D, we held back our scientists, we had to pay for this. It is nothing wrong with MiG-21. It is our decisions which brought the aircraft back, down, slightly behind. So now number 4 squadron is phasing it out. It has to phase out. 23 squadron will also phase out. And by 2025, all the MiG-21s will be gone. But that's right. But this aircraft proved itself very well. It has taught us a lesson which we will never be able to forget, that if we hold back on indigenization, उसमें अगर देर करोगे तो दुरुस्ती नहीं मिलेगी. And that is what happened with the MiG-21. MiG-21 proved itself very well in so many wars. It can still prove if somebody must have done a indigenization program like HF-24. The story is HF-24, and that is what we did not do. The airframe of HF-24 is very good also. But question is, we are reluctant. Somewhere down the line, if we cannot remove our reluctance, we will have to phase out our other aircrafts also. So MiG-21 is going, but other MiGs are coming, which have then the MiG-29 is coming. Probably the MiG-35 may come, we never know. So many other things are open to us. So let us hope and let us not even now blame ourselves, because the times have changed. We have taken fresh steps and we are going forward. We will not look back. Perhaps you'll never be able to hear this conversation again in the years to come.
Well said, sir. General Asthana, your thoughts on this phase out, and does this also coincide with India's changing landscape at the world stage and India's foreign policy outlook and parameters as well, and considering the threat assessment that India has made in the last few years, largely the last 10 years?
Considering the threat assessment, certainly we need to modernize our aircrafts, and this is the right step in that direction, phasing out of the old aircraft and getting the state-of-the-art aircraft. Now let me broaden the horizon as far as the discussion is concerned. For any defense forces in the world to be effective, you should have your equipment at the ratio of 30% state-of-the-art, 40% current, and 30% which is obsolescence. Now obsolescence means that the equipment is workable, but you have better equipment in the market in the world, and you can perhaps replace it with a better equipment. Now this is the case with a large number of aircrafts of ours. In our case, the ratio has gone haywire. We have hardly any state-of-the-art, that is very few Rafales, that's about all, and some Mirages. And as far as the current equipment is concerned, we also need a little more. And as has been seen that we require about 42 squadrons, we just have about 32 squadrons. So we are grossly short of any kind of inventory anyway. We were looking at inducting of 36 Rafale and 40 LCA Mark 1 by about 2023. That is also slightly delayed. And therefore, we are now looking at so therefore we need to induct fast. And LCA Mark 1, that is Tejas, that is going to be the mainstay of our inventory, which will fill in the deficiencies. And then only we can think of even the idea of integrated commands and theater commands and all was also stuck because of lack of air resources. This was one of the major reasons why people were having some problems with that. So that is one issue. Second issue is that when we are looking at the modernization of aircrafts, obviously self-reliance is a must, and we will be self-reliant only when we are able to manufacture AMCA, which is supposed to be actually starting, this manufacturing is supposed to start by 2035. Now we were looking at LCA Mark 1, as I said, 40 now, and we were also looking at by 2023 to 27, we should be inducting about 16 aircraft per year. And similarly, thereafter, we were to upgrade to Mark 2, about 10 aircraft per year thereafter. And thereafter, by about 2035, we were supposed to be looking at manufacturing ourselves the state-of-the-art aircraft. Now, if all these plans are put into effect, then perhaps our inventory and our capability, air capability, will be what is desired and what our threat perception indicates. Now, roughly, a rough idea about the threat perception part of it. Chinese have about a little more than 1.5 times the aircraft we have, and they have a better percentage of the state-of-the-art equipment. Similarly, Pakistanis have about 60% of the aircraft which we have, but their percentage of state-of-the-art aircraft is better than us. So, considering these two things, I think we need to make faster progress towards Atmanirbhar as well. And whatever we are trying to induct, we are trying to induct more Rafales that must go through. Similarly, we also need aircraft for the aircraft carrier. That is the second aircraft carrier which we have. We haven't been able to buy aircraft so far. So I think that also is a work in progress. So hopefully, once we have all these things, I think plans are very well laid out, but we must guard against the slippages and delays, which is happening quite often. So this, in my opinion, is the entire plan of the air assets and the air power which we should have in future. Vinny.
Group Captain VN Jha. Well, what's the way forward? Is it going to be an impetus and focus and of course preference for Atmanirbharta, because that also has to be a plan of this great phase out?
Very well, Vineet. Previous speakers have already laid out the background of MiG-21 going out. But I will also, would like to mention it. I have also flown MiG-21. It will be very, very unfair and unjust to call it a flying coffin. No way. It was a fantastic aircraft on the day when it was purchased. It has met all the expectations of a nation to defend its airspace. It has given sufficient amount of ground support to the armed forces. So what is the requirement of aircraft? Aircraft is to defend your airspace and, of course, be dominant over the enemy, do the ground support part of it, do the interdiction of the things, go well deep within the enemy territory. These are the expectations of an aircraft, air power. It has performed most of these functions very well, very satisfactorily. You have already mentioned that we have fought, 2 wars. So this has given everything that was required. Yes, as Wing Commander Praful Bakshi was mentioning, it is a less forgiving aircraft, MiG-21. It doesn't forgive you. If you make a mistake, if you stall it, or if you mishandle it, it is not going to spare you. So that was one. And, in the late 80s, early 90s, we had a very deep down dressing all through up to the air headquarters, flight safety, wherein we found that even our training schedule, not having a jet trainer for the training of a pilot who is going to fly the MiG-21 was a basic issue, and that is how Hawk was procured as a jet trainer. Kiran, of course, was there as a jet trainer, but was a very, very basic jet. So everything has been done, and let's be fair to MiG-21. It was a fantastic aircraft, and it is a fantastic aircraft. Even today, some of the aircraft has been procured recently, as late as I think 2012, 2013. Some aircraft, Bison, MiG-21 Bison has been procured, and that will serve. One aircraft, airframe has got a life of about 30 years, plus minus. You can make something. So that is the type of life we see. Now it is going to be replaced by LCA Mark 1 and Mark 1A. I have worked with the LCA in some part of subsystems of it. I know it is a fantastic aircraft. You can call it 4th generation aircraft. You can call it 4.5 generation aircraft. And the avionics of LCA is something that can beat the other aircraft in the vicinity. You can compare with J-21 in the avionics part of it. It will beat hands down the other aircraft, the enemy aircraft. And this is one aircraft with which most of the Air Force in our surrounding, the enemies and adversaries, they are very, very skeptical about its performance. It's a fantastic aircraft. It has got a very high air combat, air dominance role, so that it has got everything that you can think of what is there in the 5th generation aircraft minus the stealth. So everything is there in this aircraft. The engine was an issue that we had to procure earlier from abroad, but now the engine manufacturing in TOT is coming to India. So whether it is 404 engine or 414 give it a much better thrust than 404. So right now, when we are looking at the replacement of MiG-21s, we are absolutely on the platform. Give me another 30 seconds. The concern was that the production rate was very slow, but today, the production rate of this LCA Mark 1, Mark 1A is almost to the tune of 24 aircraft per year. So that means 1.5 squadron will be replaced every year. So all those concerns are gone. Now this is the indigenous aircraft, this is the Atmanirbhar Bharat, and this is our force to reckon with. And we should be able to dominate in the region with this aircraft. And as General Asthana was mentioning the aircraft carrier, we have even built the naval version of LCA aircraft. It has done all the tests, all performance, deck landing.
All right, sir.
It has been done everything successfully. So wish them all the best.
All right, sir. All right.
More.
All right. We've also run out of time. I'm going to take concluding thoughts from all our panelists, starting with General Dwivedi. General Dwivedi, if I was to ask you that if it's an end of an era with this phase out with the MiG-21, then what is it the beginning of?
Well, Vineet, one era ends and the other era begins. But I just like to make 3 or 4 important points. Today, we are in the space age, and Air Force, air power is actually a game changer. Therefore, I think it needs to be accorded highest priority. Secondly, we talked about the indigenization and especially about China. I follow China very closely, having served as defense attaché in China for more than 3 years. The point is, even Chinese could not make a proper engine, and their engine had to be from the Russia, like the RD-93 for J-17 and AL-31 for J-20. So aircraft is actually a combination of airframe, armament, avionics, and the power that you give. And our HF-24 failed basically. The Egyptian engine was not good enough. So when we are talking of indigenization, we got to ensure that we are able to create the complete ecosystem, and to make engines by yourself is actually, I think, very tall order, and that's why we are going for the engine from America, US F414 for the LCA. And the last point which I wish to make is that today warfare is all integrated. It is all how you bring the complete combat part together. That's where the cutting edge is, and therefore the man and machine combination is very important. We need to have the state-of-art weapon system, and they got to be integrated with the manpower and with the kind of pilots and all the ground crew that have to come together. But the end of it is the man-machine combination, and I'll only end up by saying that new era is beginning, and our Air Force has a very bright future, and they are going to play a very vital role in our national security.
All right. Commander Bakshi, same question for you. 20 seconds, sir.
Thank you, Vineet. Air and space power is what we are watching now. Indian Air Force is developing into. And for that, overall development is taking place. Let me tell you, it's a capability of our country is directly related to the political will and will to do it. And that is what we have got. You have got the good news that Kaveri is coming up, and coming up very well. LCA will now be the dominating fighter. And let me tell you one thing, there are also talks of bringing the HF-24 back on the board to study as to why it cannot be developed again. Let me tell you, Vinny, that is what we are waiting for.
All right, General Asthana.
Multiple domains, whether it is in terms of drones, we saw the utility of drones, and many other air assets, and I think a comprehensive development is required. One point I want to clarify, which has been appearing in many magazines, people are saying that now that we have got the Rafale and it is a multi-role aircraft, so for our requirement of 42 squadron is not 42, it should be lesser. I don't agree with that, because similarly, the capability of the other side has increased, the air defense capability of the other side has increased, and the contenders in the airspace have also increased, and therefore the threat, what it was and what it remains, is exactly the same, and therefore the requirement has not come down, and our procurement should not get biased by that.
All right. All right, sir. Group Captain Jha, 10 seconds, sir. Completely out of time.
Vineet, just watch out in the near future. LCA Mark 1A is going to augment the entire air power capability of Indian Air Force, and wish them all the best. We had already contracted 83 aircraft. Another 97 is in the pipeline that government is going to take a decision. So it will all make up the numbers in no time at all. And wish Government of India all the best onto this. HAL, ADA, all the best. Wishing them very all the best, and my salute to MiG-21, which is going off the service.
All right. Wonderful discussion, and just the answers and the solutions that we expected from our expert panelists.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.